Please, New York City, welcome RossduhBoss.
How's everybody's feelings? You always have to ask that now. How's everybody's feelings? Because I'm supposed to cheer you up if you're in a bad mood, but let's be honest. Pretty much everybody who's been alive for the last 2 years is probably in kind of a bad mood. Unless you're not paying attention. If you're not paying attention, it's hard to talk to you anyway, because like 80% of dialogue's kind of off limits, you know? People are like, well, did you get your vaccine? And you're like, that's a whole casket to bring out of the ground for me to talk to you about this. You know what I'm saying? It's like, do I want to disrupt your entire worldview in the next 4 minutes and then you look at me funny? Right? Because I know more than you about this. You know, generally speaking, whoever knows more wins the conversations. You know what I mean? But now there's so much social shame involved in your, relationships that even if you're right, you feel weird. You know what I'm saying? You're like, actually, no, I don't know, I'm not into letting the government pretty much control any part of my life, and it seemed like they really wanted to control this part of my life, so I was like, I should be extra defensive mechanism oriented. But it's exhausting, isn't it? Yes. Aren't you guys exhausted? Aren't you tired? Yes. Aren't you sick of the nonsense? Yes. You just want everybody to be normal again and act like the way they did, 3 years ago, and all of a sudden now it's like you're a pariah if you're like, remember when we used to hug without deciding, the stupid fist thing? How awkward is that, right? You're like, oh, John, and they're like, hey, and you're like, oh, it took 2 years of programming, and now you don't hug anymore. You don't think that's gonna mess you up? I think about it too with these kids and the face masks a lot. You mean to tell me that we dropped 20 points in IQ in 2 years, and you don't think there might be a hint of an issue here? If you really think about it, 90% of communication's nonverbal, which is why I have to keep walking across the stage back and forth. It's to keep you engaged, right? Because I don't want to be the guy that was like, well, that last guy was kind of lame. But, so I have to make sure I'm, doing my job to keep you engaged. But imagine if you couldn't see my face and you couldn't see my mouth. A lot of this is not, you see, it wasn't even as funny when I giggled right then as it was when I do it without it, right? Well, so imagine you're a teacher trying to keep people engaged, right? And you're dealing with 5-year-olds, which is already difficult. I got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 9-month-old over there. That's right. Ever since I saw the stripper happen when they brought the 4-year-olds and they were doing dollar bills, I was like, today's the day I bring my baby into a bar. Right? Ha ha ha. It's funny because it's sad. So let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on lately. Now, as you can tell, I've got a lot of experience consuming food, right? So my wife, who's a stick, she's been a rail our entire relationship. I've had to kind of learn as we've gone, right? And what I mean by that is I didn't believe anything she said at first, and I was like, well, why shouldn't we get them vaccinated? I was vaccinated, and I'm fine. And everybody in the room knows when somebody says that, their wife usually looks at them and goes, no, you're not. You're really not fine. And I go, well, what do you mean? She's like, you know how you don't like to touch anything in the mornings because it makes your fingertips feel weird? And I was like, yeah, it's part of my personality. And she's like, no, it's not. It's actually not. That's a wound. You just didn't know it. But so anyway, the reason Children's Health Defense exists is because there's so much that's trying to kill you. Yes. You live in a world of stuff that's trying to kill you. And I know I sound crazy if you don't know much about this, but have you looked at the ingredients of pizza rolls? I hadn't, as you can tell, right? So I'm first off, it comes in a bag the size of like a mulch bag. You can just pick this thing up and it's $1. So you're happy because it's cheap and there's a ton of it. And so my wife, she's at home, and I put this bag in the freezer like it's a deer I just got, from going to war. Like, I'm like, there we go. Job's done, baby. And she's looking at it, and she's already thinking, she's like, we got to work on him, right? And so I'm like, go do something else. She can't lay it on too thick or I'll reject it, and it's got to be slow boil. Because look at me, I'm stuck in my ways a little bit, like some of you at first, right, with the whole vaccines and thing. But so anyway, a little while later, she's looking at the ingredients as I pop these puppies in the oven. I'm not a dirty, rotten scoundrel. I don't just put them in the microwave. You got to put them in the oven, so at least it bakes some of the nastiness out of it. If you put them in the microwave, you might as well just have a lean cuisine, and I think we all know. That's like hungry man status of value. You know, you have to do above a microwave. So I put them in the oven because I'm fancy. And so my wife's just looking at the bag. She already knows the answer to these questions. And she's like, so do you know what's in those? And I'm like, I don't know, probably some bread, cheese, and a little tomato sauce. And she's like, why is there 67 ingredients? You know, she knows the answer. And I'm just like, I don't know, probably 67 ways to say bread, cheese, and a little bit of tomato sauce. You know, and she's like, okay, well, she writes something down in her notepad, whatever. And so she's got this little notepad she's keeping. I'm noticing everywhere we're going, she's writing in this little notepad. She's got a food journal, right? And so anyway, a little while longer, and she starts to just replace my stuff in the house with healthy versions of the stuff, you know, but I'm a little bit too dumb and aloof to pay attention to everything, and I got 3 kids, so just stuff disappears sometimes, so I'm sitting there at the sink, and I'm like, hey, where's my toothpaste? You know, and she's like, you mean the one that's usually on the right side of your sink? Yeah. I don't know, but I put a brand new one that's healthy on the right side of your sink just now. Why don't you use that one? And I'm like, well, I guess I do have 3 kids. They could have run off with it. I guess I'll just brush my teeth with this one. And then she's sitting on the bed watching me. And just whenever you start making healthy decisions, your wife she has these little organic wings that just grow in the back a little bit longer every time you do something. And I just saw her over there going, you know, as I'm brushing my teeth with the organic, you know. So anyway, it starts to get a little too serious, though. And all of a sudden, the ham goes missing. You know, one of the purple tinfoil ones from Walmart that's probably straight from China. And they're like, kill them quickly, put more in. You know, just whatever it is. They're trying to kill us fast. And we're okay with it, obviously. Look at me. I'm okay with it. I've been okay with it for years. But she starts just taking stuff a little too quick, you know. And like, where's that ham? You know, and she's like, you mean the one on the bottom left of the freezer? Yeah. I don't know. And I'm like, bullshit. Where's it at? And like, I got the feelings on the inside. You know, you start talking to yourself. You're like, you need some time for you. You ever just give yourself a little too much? You could have an extrovert. Who's going to know? Okay? You deserve it. That guy talks too loud to me. Too consistently. And so my wife will just be like, Ross, you know, I just think maybe we could use this organic one. It's like $88 instead of, you know, $17. And I got my dad on my shoulder who's a penny pitcher, and he's like, you son of a, did you throw it away? You know what I mean? I'm angry or whatever. But then it starts getting worse. And I'm texting my buddies. They're like, hey, what do you want to do tonight? And I'm like, hey, man, come over. We can have a good game. I think there's a football game on. I don't know. My kids will be asleep for once. Please, God, come over. I'll just order Papa John's or something. My wife overhears it, and her fairy wings just grow a little bit. And she's like, now's my chance. She flutters over, and she's like, hey, honey, I heard you on the phone. Are your friends coming over? It sounds like it's going to be a good time. And I'm like, yeah, they're all going to come over. She's like, I heard you're going to get pizza. And she's covering my phone with her hand so I don't finish the order to Papa John's, you know? And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, you know, I just think maybe it's a good time to have some of the pizzas that I already purchased in the freezer, they're cauliflower crust, right? And that was just too much of a transition emotionally for me, and I was just like, what the hell's going on? Where am I? You know, and she's like, all right, retreat. And so she's like, I have to try a different tact. So she goes for my ancestry, right? She knows I'm a penny pincher miser, right? So she just looks over at me and she's like, but we've already got 2 pizzas in the freezer, and wouldn't it be a waste of money if we bought 2 more? So then I'm just stuck in the vortex right now. My dad's on this shoulder going, you know, she's got a point. And then I've got the inner me going, but you need this. She's getting in the way of your needs, man. So anyway, I'm like, not this time, honey, not this time. So then, instead of trying to convince me to just do stuff, she started to telling me the ingredients. Because if you plant the seeds, you can't say stupid for too long, right? I couldn't stay stupid. So she would, I'd be mid-bite into a hot dog at my buddy's, a budget-friendly hot dog, come on, right? And she'd be like, oh, sometimes, animals have cancer, and if they grind them up, you can't tell, and they put them in cheaper hot dogs. Do you know if that's a cheap one? And she just slapped me on the butt and walk away, and then all right, I'm just chewing this thing going, maybe this is a tumor, man, it just starts ruining your day. And that's what they're doing. They're ruining your day all the time. If you know about it, which if you start to know about it, it's a terrible rabbit hole, isn't it? Don't you wish you were dumb sometimes? Just give me a day of stupidity. I wish I didn't know everything. It's like Solomon in the Bible, with much knowledge comes much sorrow. Like, you guys couldn't wait to kill me at 80? Just let me live to 80? You had to put the actual ingredients of a Ziploc bag into each Dorito so that I'm literally dying at 60, and so you couldn't wait 20 years? You couldn't just give me to 80. I would have shut up and been out of your hair, but now you're trying to kill me, and I'm aware of it all the time, so now I'm loud about it. And I got a big mouth. Look at me. This is not going to be good in the long run for them because I'm going to make them look stupid because they deserve to look stupid, right? They do. You're telling me you couldn't put, I mean, by the way, have you guys ever talked to somebody that works in one of the food plants? Have you ever had a conversation? Well, it's a strange thing, right? Because I'll be in the barber shop or something. I'm like, oh yeah, man, what do you do? Well, I work at Doritos. Oh yeah, that's cool. I bet you get to take as many chips as you want home, huh? Which is like my dream internally. I'm like, man, you work at the Swiss cake roll factory? Dang, I bet they let you load up, huh, buddy? All the little messed up ones, you just take them right on home, huh? And my mouth's like drooling, you know, my wife's like, we're working on them. But the guy will respond, they always sound like a war vet. You know, they're like, look, I'm not telling you what to do. But my girlfriend doesn't even wear my work clothes in the house because it'll get her dog sick. You know, it's like, it's always so bad. And then you're like, oh, all right, well, I guess I ought to change a couple things. You know, so that's what I'm on the journey of doing, changing a couple things. The problem is there's so much to freaking change. You have to change everything. So my wife, one day I just decided, I was like, honey, this is like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Every couple days, she's just knocking off one of my favorite things. Oh, you and your father love to go get hot dogs there, huh? Yeah, that's unfortunate for him because of what's in it, and he's a little older. His defense mechanisms probably aren't there like yours. You telling me I'm killing my dad by going to get hot dogs? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's occurring. Oh, okay. Don't feel any better that you said it that way. So one day I finally just said, honey, you got to give me everything that's bad for me right now in one day because I can't handle that every few days trying to slow it. I don't want to slow boil. And she's like, I don't think you're ready for that. I know your relationship with food. And I'm like, just do it. We'll get it over with. I'm sure it's not like a mile long. And she's like, okay. Her fairy wings grow full length. And she's just flapping her fairy wings to the kitchen. She grabs her handy dandy notebook, brings it back, and she's like, okay, you might want to sit down for this. You know, I crack a Coca-Cola. She's like, ooh. Just enjoy that. We're not going to go there. She knows my limits, right? So she's like, well, we'll just go, you know, tell me about a hypothetical day that you have, Ross, and we'll go from there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll just start with the stuff that doesn't really matter first. How about that? And she's like, perfect. And I'm like, so I wake up, you know, it's probably, and she's like, what time? I don't know, like 7? So I wake up at 7, then I go what time did you go to bed? Like 2? So less than 6 hours of sleep? She's just writing it down, and I'm like, yeah, less than 6 hours of sleep. What's the deal? She's like, well, keep going. And then I'm like, so I wake up, I start to get in the shower. She's like, where are you scrolling? What do you mean was I scrolling? At night. Is that why you stayed up till 2? Yeah, I was scrolling on my phone, looking at the blue light, disrupting your circadian rhythm. Is that what you were doing, scrolling? Yeah, I was looking at the thing. Okay, were you holding the EMF emitting device near your heart, like on your chest? No. Let me think. Okay, yeah. And she's like, okay. I know I'm in bed by 9 because I'm an organic fairy, but so how many times per week would you say you do this? Is this like once or twice? It's like every day. For as long as I can remember. And everybody in here is like, well, me too, right? It's kind of bad. But so anyway, then she goes, well, what do you do next? And I go, well, then I jump out, I get in the shower, and she goes, in Virginia Beach water? So after your fluoride chlorine bath, are you still using the Dollar Tree soap that we talked about? Because we've got these things that we're talking about, and the answer is yes. I was still using the Suave for $1 because I didn't know any better. All right, I'm getting there. But it's a slow boil, all right? As you can tell, it takes some time to turn me. So anyway, long story short, I'm getting better at it. The world's trying to kill you. It sucks that they are. And if they would have done it slow, you know, like if you imagine you had 100 buffalo on your land, and you killed one of them, they'd be fine. But if you come out and you kill 30 in one day, even buffalo are gonna be like, dude, I'm a buffalo. I don't know jack, but we gotta get the heck out of here, man. And that's the way it feels. I'm like, we gotta get the heck out of here, but you gotta pay to exit the system. And the payments are expensive. Have you guys been to an organic grocery store? It's $150 per paper bag, and it's always in a paper bag when you leave. You can't get the plastic ones because that's bad for the earth. Never mind the air that you breathe, full of aluminum. But anyway, so my wife gets all excited, and I'll tell you guys this last little story, and then I'll let you go. You having fun? Yeah. Good. I have this Montenegrin man named Ilya Orlovich. He's a friend of mine. I know him for a long time ago. But he did say to me, Ross, I don't want to eat healthy because I plan to die at 60 years old. You can live to 80 if you want, but the longer I'm alive, the more angry I become. And so I took that advice for like a year, and then I realized that's kind of selfish to not let my kids have me longer, because look how wonderful I am. So my wife's in the, her fairy wings are full grown at this point. We're in Whole Foods, of course, right? And she starts going down the aisle, and she's like, look, these are eggs that, you can know that they're happy eggs. They're $9 a piece, but they were definitely free range. And look, there's a picture. This one's Margaret. See? They came from Margaret, so that's how you know they're good. And also, and I'm like, okay, how much for the eggs that are like, maybe they only did half as happy as this, because this is a really happy egg. And my dad's on my shoulder going, what the? Or whatever, like, what are you doing? And so we go to the next thing, and she's like, well, this meat over here is, grass-fed mostly, and then grain-finished, which means everything good happened, and then right at the end, they pumped them full of the toxic sludge from Captain Planet so that they got real fat, and then you ate it. And then I was like, okay, well, that doesn't sound good. She's like, yeah, and over here, you can actually decide which smell the cow gets to smell before it dies, and which music. And it's perfect. So then if we make our purchase, it completes the cycle of life. And I'm like, honey, we might as well send these cows to college for $45 a pound. So anyway, guys, I don't got much more to say. I do, but I might as well hang it up and just have some more fun. You guys have been great. Much love, everybody. We'll talk more soon. You can, I guess you can follow me at RossduhBoss, and it's D-U-H in the middle, like duh, like everything that's happening right now.